Hey friends, it's Brett back with another episode of Seeking Our Spirit, episode 35. Sat down with my friend and parishioner Chemain Kellogg, and we had a good chat. I hope you enjoy her journey and what she shares. As always, if you want to come and be on the show, please contact me at seekingourspirit@gmail.com. That's the best way you can support the show. You all have a story, so come and share it. And also, if you want to be on the show but just want to tell a story and don't really want to come on, you can contact me and leave a message with your story, and we'll share it and talk about it on an episode. You can call me at 615-933-9737 and just leave a message. As always, please keep hitting the like buttons and share buttons. As I keep saying, we're on YouTube now, so go and follow there. Even if you don't listen on YouTube, that'll help us out. And yeah, appreciate all the support. Enjoy, and we'll see you soon. Peace. All right, we are rolling. Welcome, Chemain Kellogg. Good to have you.
Thank you.
I'm excited to do this with you. You are a friend and parishioner, and we've done spiritual direction and other things together, so yes. Gotten to know each other a little bit, but this will be a whole other side and angle, so I'm excited for that. So thanks for welcoming me into your beautiful home, and listeners can't get a sense of it, but I have wonderful snacks in front of me, which you're going to get annoyed by because I'm going to eat them while I'm talking. But thank you for your hospitality and your willingness to do this. So welcome. Just to start off, why don't you tell folks who you are, what you do, just a little bit of your background.
Chemain Kellogg. I'm a Capricorn. My favorite color is rainbows. Let's see. So yeah. Been in East Tennessee in Knoxville for 11 years now. Came here from San Diego, California, where I was born and raised and spent the entirety of my life. Trying to raise a family was kind of rough in San Diego. We were house poor and we weren't really having much fun. Mm-hmm. My husband and I, we value fun a lot. We value travel, we value experiences, and we weren't doing much of that. So we had the opportunity to come here, and I did the math, and I knew that it was going to bode well for us, and ultimately it did, and we've had an unimaginable life here, actually completely blessed. I'm in sales, and I have a beautiful family, and that's it.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. So you came to the Holy Land.
The Bible Belt, but little did I know that Knoxville would out-party me.
That's
any
interesting.
day of the week.
So. Nice. Well, good. Well, awesome. So, as you know, we talk about spirituality on this little project of mine, and for me, the interest is trying to get to what do we mean when we say that word? And so it's been a great joy for me to sort of see through people's stories what they mean when they say spirituality. So for Chemain, where do you enter into that? So many different ways to enter in, but have you always been spiritual, always felt connected to higher power, God? Was it through church? Was it through family? So where do you enter into when you think of spirituality in your life?
So I've never had to be taught or guided or led to belief in God. Mm-hmm. I've only ever known of God. I don't have any memory in my life without the very acute awareness of God's presence in my life, ever. Mm-hmm. Now, could I have known that's what that was, when I was so little? No, but I don't know. I can't. Yeah. It's always hard for me to describe, but I've never not known or felt or been completely aware of God's very strong presence.
Right. Just almost palpable, right? Like you just know.
Tangible. Like I've always known that it's right there.
Mm-hmm. It's so funny because talking to a lot of different people and whatever, and I literally just said this, I recorded an episode earlier today, and we had the same conversation where it's actually, and I hope this doesn't come off, I don't mean this in like a qualitative way, like one is better than the other, but it took me a long time to recognize that. So I'm like you, and it took me many years to realize that not everyone has that story. And I literally just said the same thing with the earlier person I was chatting with. So I don't know what that is, right? But, you know, some people have experience of like very clear presence of God in like an in-breaking moment in their life at some point or not. And some people, it's just like always there, like an abiding presence.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I think when I learned of the word atheism, which absolutely no judgment there at all. But when I learned of that word, what it even meant, or even, you know, being agnostic, that took me back, because in my mind, I think at that time, it was like, wait, what? I don't know, I guess like you, I sort of always felt maybe everybody had that same kind of feeling or awareness.
Yeah, if you feel so connected to this thing, how could you...
How can the opposite that exist?
Right. Yeah, that's funny. So, okay, so that's there. Chemain's grown up. She just always feels this sort of connection to this thing that later we call God, probably. Mm-hmm. What else? Do you have like touchstone moments growing up? Do you have things you hold on to or point to in terms of relationship with God or Holy Spirit or whatever?
I mean, just lots. Like, I'm not one of those people, I wish, but I'm not one of those people that actually hears God speak.
Yeah.
That'd be rad. But I'm not.
I call those languages, and like that's a very rare one.
Yeah.
I don't get a lot of people that tell me.
That's amazing to me, and I would love that. It would make life easier, God.
If you're listening to Brett's podcast.
Straight out to me in English, that'd be amazing. But all that to say that God does speak very loudly and clearly to me in ways when I need it, when I ask for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's just, I don't know, there's just been moments throughout life where the exact help that I needed, maybe prayed for, begged for, showed up in ways that I wouldn't have guessed. There's been messages that have saved me from, you know, poor decisions, or messages that have helped me act out for my children when needed to perhaps save them.
And is that stuff you see in hindsight, or?
I know it when it happens. I know it so clearly, and I, without fail, I always pause and maybe even laugh a little bit depending upon the situation, and just say thank you so much. I got it. All right, you know, like thanks. Thank you.
Can you think of one of those stories?
One that, I mean, without a doubt, was me helped out, and it's almost an embarrassing story. It's awful because it makes me ashamed as a mom. But when we were in San Diego, we had a pool in our house, or outside our house, not in. And, you know, all four of us were home. That's not often. And our kids were 4 and 2. And it was like, okay, we're going to do whatever we're going to do, and then we're going to go and swim all day long. And my kids were fish. They were just amazing swimmers right from the start. And so that was like the idea of having mom and dad in the pool all day long. That was just the best. And they were overly confident with their swimming skills. So I started with my son, you know, applying all his little sunscreen, and then I was going to work on Sydney, and then we'd do what we do, put on the little floaties, go out to the pool. And man, I swear kids are so fast.
Yeah.
So fast.
Mm-hmm.
So here's my 4-year-old who is actually hardly verbal.
Mm-hmm.
My son was late with his verbal ability, so which even heightens the message.
Yeah,
there.
right.
So he was about 4, and he had his little cute little legs out, and I was rubbing them down with sunscreen. And he puts his little hand on my forehead, pushes my head back to look at him, and he looks at me in the eyes and says, "Where is Sydney now?" 4 years old. That would be really articulate for any 4-year-old, let alone one who's hardly verbal. And I just, in a moment of shock, then I just had the feel that ran down my body, and I looked out through the screen door, and you just saw this little blonde halo of hair floating in the water, and she was under the water. My husband literally ripped the screen off the track and jumped in and grabbed her and, pounded her little back to get her to just throw up any water that she had taken in. And no, I didn't laugh at that moment.
No, right.
But I definitely sat back and sobbed.
Yeah.
And, held her.
Yeah.
Held her tight and just sobbed and sobbed. And then once I got past that shocking, terrifying moment, then just like absolute gratitude, I don't know, melted into God in that moment of gratitude of, oh my God, thank you for talking to me. Thank you for saving us.
Yeah. I mean, funny because like it's not like your son was like looking around and conscious of.
No.
Yeah.
He was watching mommy put sunscreen on his leg.
Yeah.
And then in just this moment, just pushed my head back to make eye contact with me.
Yeah.
And said in a way, or said those words in a way that, like, a little 4-year-old wouldn't really say it that way.
Right.
And I just knew, I felt it all in that moment. God just like doing the work to make a moment happen that at that moment really wasn't supposed to happen.
Man, that's powerful. Maybe we should have started with something less so you could build up to that one.
I mean, God like just does like that in my life.
Yeah.
And I can't, always happy to share.
No, I'm kidding. Yeah. So growing up though, you as we already talked about, you felt a connection to God, from an early age. It wasn't like that was taught or anything, but then you also grew up fairly churched.
So, yeah, born to a Southern Baptist father and a Roman Catholic Mexican mom. And I think at that
They got
time,
Southern Baptists in California?
Well, the Kentucky boy moved out to California when he was really young. And, I just think that it was a time where generally you just made the kids whatever the mom was, right? And that was our environment. Like, my dad's family was all here back east, so it was just what our environment was anyways. So, baptized, went to Sunday school, CCD, communion, confirmation, but we didn't, that was actually more a neighbor of ours that got my mom to allow them to sort of take me to church often with them, and my mom would go along too until they told her that her marriage wasn't recognized by the church and that she would have to bring my dad over and get married again.
Because they were Catholic too.
Yeah. And it was like, well, we're not doing that. So my time at church extended to the point where the neighbors didn't take me anymore, which I don't actually ever know why that happened. But before that, it was always Easter and Christmas, right? Yeah. The big, cute, poofy dresses and little white patent leather shoes. And
so then, tell me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like then your sense of spirituality, your relationship with God, then didn't actually have a whole lot to do with your relationship with church.
At all. In fact, church, being in, Bible study, being in CCD especially, it wasn't weird, but it was just really interesting to start to learn about God in such a formal, structured way.
Mm-hmm.
To learn about this thing, that I've just sort of already knew.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't weird to me. It was just it was just interesting. It was different. And it didn't always feel like what I felt.
Yeah.
But that was okay. And honestly, I've always been really, really interested in theology in general.
Mm-hmm.
When I, got into high school and maybe through my early 20s, I loved studying Buddhism and Taoism and
Mm-hmm.
Hindu and, Indian mythology. I loved learning about all concepts of God and universe.
That was in high school?
Like probably about my senior year, and then like through my 20s.
Yeah.
Like I would read all the time about various religions. Now, with that, I loved learning about them, and I just felt like it was, culturally formed methods of, worship that were more formed by culture and geography than anything else.
So like we all have access to this relationship with this thing that you have experienced, but it's just sort of through a lens of different cultures and peoples. Yeah.
Yes, but none of that ever broke me from my identifying God the way I identified, and I would always say, Jesus was my favorite prophet. I don't know, but all that learning and studying just sort of enhanced my belief that I've had and developed over a lifetime. So yeah, no structure of religion.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Added or enhanced my faith.
What about like your parents? Like, did they talk about God growing up? Did you was it a quote unquote religious household?
No, and I think really because of the whole Baptist versus Catholic kind of thing.
Yeah.
Plus they were.
But like the Latino side, like typically culturally, you've got those sort of practices embedded in.
Sort of.
My
family dynamic was really just sort of different and weird. I was the sixth grandchild to a 36-year-old woman. We were, immigrant family, impoverished family, family basically raised by just women because we didn't have a lot of men in our lives. And, there was no formal, traditional family dynamic that anybody in my family grew up where you would be exposed to frequency of church and practice of faith and such. I came from a family of survivors. Now, my grandmother, she was devoutly God-loving. Can't even say Catholic because she wasn't going to church, but devoutly God-loving. And she would scare us actually in her faith. She had her little books that she just was always chanting. Now my grandma, Mexican immigrant, and we've done the whole 23andMe and Ancestry and all that, and culturally and geographically, she actually comes from a tribe of Indian in Baja, California, in the Sinaloa area. So with her, you almost got a blend of Catholicism
and indigenous religion.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct. So you got a lot of chanting with her. You had her constantly saging the house, saging us, rotten little grandkids, bathing us in holy water by throwing her sprig of whatever she was growing, and she'd buy little tubes of holy water from the church and literally throw it on us to ward the demons out of us. And there was just little weird things around the house that you could or couldn't do because you were either pushing out good spirit or inviting in evil spirit.
Is there a word for that? Do you know what, for lack of a better word, religion the indigenous folks of like Baja California practice? You know what that is?
No, that I don't know. And I don't even know that she would know, other than it was just little practices and thoughts that were passed down. But we used to all kind of make fun of it a little bit because it was funny.
Like we would just sort of call it like superstitious, right?
Yeah.
But that's
it's almost like what voodoo is, right? I mean, she wasn't voodoo, but where it was Catholicism mixed with...
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, so...
We're in Bolivia, like where Carlos from, like same thing.
Yeah.
You know, mixed with the indigenous religion that's been there for...
preceded...
Catholicism. Preceded Jesus.
True, yes. Yes, as a matter of fact. But she was just devout. Like, that was... And then, like any other Mexican grandma, you had the... Virgin de Guadalupe everywhere. You had Jesus everywhere. You had prayer hand statues everywhere. You had candles everywhere. She was deeply, deeply faithful, and I did grow up watching that example and identified that whatever she was chanting to, praying to, crossing to, I knew that was to that presence,
this source, creator, God.
I knew it was the same. So that probably, I imagine, inspired me somewhat, or not even inspired, because it was always there.
The influence.
So maybe whatever I have, maybe she had that awareness, that tangible awareness. That something's right there, always carrying her along, trying to protect her. So on and so forth. Yeah,
like a devotion and a dedication, a commitment to this relationship with this thing that we can't identify or define, right? It's just a sense. We know it's there.
And in recognizing the ability to even recognize when she might be stepping in, helping, or just sometimes comforting. Filling us with strength. I don't know.
Yeah, sustaining, walking with you. Yeah, man, that's... And I don't have answers for any of that, right? But it's there. It is what it is. So as you grow and as you sort of, go through the various phases of life and everything, like are there moments or times that you would point to that you're more in tune to that or less in tune? Are there like dark nights of the soul? Are there like spiritual awakening times? Like what does that look like? What does that timeline look like? I mean, for some people it's just like, easy does it. It's steady. Some people's mountains and valleys, some people, so what does yours look like?
I don't think that I've ever had moments of disbelief. I've definitely had moments of just not forgetting, but just, like any relationship, not giving it much attention.
Yeah. Neglect
I've had many moments, angry moments of lashing out at God and fracturing, I guess, that, not belief, but relationship anyways, and just challenging God, that aren't super nice, but I've done it.
So did Abraham and, a lot of figures in the Bible,
yeah,
so
but
you're in good company.
That I can't put Chemain in the same sentence as Abraham and Moses and Jacob and all of those.
I don't know, man. They were just backwater people. They were people that...
Backwater people.
They were. They were people that no one ever would have imagined God would deal with.
Yeah. Well,
that's what's beautiful about it.
Yeah. Yes, God's had to deal with me, and I'm not usually proud of it, but hasn't gone away. So, that's probably been the big question in my life, as you learn religion, as you go through the structure of religion, and then when somebody like me, who it's always been there, right? And I love how I love and I believe how I believe, but then you put this structure, this information to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you start learning things that like probably are considered wrong or are considered wrong. And then I have to like look at God and say, dude, I need you to tell me the truth here. Like, show me, like, am I not following you the right way?
Yeah.
Am I too loving? Am I too open? Am I too accepting? Like, because if I go, I've been to non-denominational churches that were really more kind of Baptist leaning, and that throws you for a loop because you're like, oh shoot, am I believing wrong? Am I doing this wrong?
Do you mean, like, say more about that? So do you mean, like, because, like, those expressions of religion are they're very direct about, like, there's a right way and there's a wrong way? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. The rules, who to love, how you love. They tell you, God forgives everybody and we're all sinners, but then the language, the dialogue is so righteous, right? And it just makes you like, it has made me second guess that knowledge, that awareness of God, and like, God, if I'm supposed to like be against homosexuality, I need you to tell me, man, because that's not in my heart. And unless you mean me to go to hell, then clearly you're going to set me right? But he hasn't. And he's only, any way that God's ever helped me and loved me has always been exactly for me, how I am. And I'm not, and he's provided help, he's provided assistance and comfort and inspiration. So like, I think that I must be okay if you keep blessing me and you keep rewarding me and you keep supporting me and loving me. I must be okay with how I approach life and who the people I love and accept and give to. Like, I must be okay. Yeah. But if I'm not, I need you to tell me, because otherwise you intentionally intend me to go to this notion of hell. Right?
Yeah, that's such a fascinating, like, little, I don't know, situation or experience there. Because, like, you came with, like, an innate sense of this thing we call God, right? And developed that relationship with that. And then you've got an organized version of, of that telling you, it's XYZ. Yeah, and then sort of trying to confront that and figure out what's right or what's true. That's
even as you read through the Bible, making sense of that. Trying to remember context, trying to remember the time, trying to remember that it's a compilation of writings and not just one thought. Apparently dictated by God. Like trying to take that kind of information and still think, okay, I'm supposed to read this or learn this because it's somehow supposed to make me better, set me on a better course, live more holy, live more Jesus-like, right? So how do I take that information, but then this relationship that's always been there, that has not wronged me, and shoot, I've done some pretty unholy things in my life, and still I continue to receive nothing but love and support and hope and guidance. So like, I must be okay. I must be doing all right, and to not entirely take this structure, this
what's
Bible,
being handed down
what's
to
being
you,
given to me, and not take it for literal rules, I think. But then I'm like, but God, please, if I'm supposed to, I really need you to tell me.
I mean, man, that gets so... It's fascinating because it's like, who's right?
Yeah.
Right? Well, and like, let's presume or assume, in that example, right? You have this connection with this thing, God, higher power, and you feel like that thing communicates to you or guides you or leads you. And then let's assume that church setting, that they have the same thing, they feel the same thing, right? I don't know that I think that's always really the case, and that like organized religions and institutions are actually authentically discerning God's guidance in their life. I know that sounds critical, and I'm sorry for that, but, I don't know that I think that. But if it is, if they are, yeah, then what do you do with that, right? That you've got these two different,
So you just
messages or teachings or...
that both camps feel very correct and led, right? I don't know. The way I make peace with that is I continue conversation with God through prayer, through...
And then you just come to the Episcopal Church.
Well, and I show up to St. E's, to my little powerful 8 a.m. group. No, I walk in love, right?
Yeah.
It's just that. It's at the end of the day, did I respond to the day in fear, or did I respond to it in love? And if it ended in love, then I feel like I'm okay. And at the end of the day, not a single one of us on the entire planet truly actually knows what happens.
Yeah.
Could very well be lights out. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to spend too much time worrying about it and try and, live out these rules out of fear. Shoot, I don't even go to church to go to heaven.
Yeah.
Honestly, I go to church to survive earth.
Yeah.
So...
so I was curious about that. So, it's funny and interesting, we've done spiritual direction together, so I know, certain angles on your story.
Yeah.
But I haven't, we haven't sat and talked this way, so, some of that stuff I didn't realize, so, it sounds like what you're saying now is that you weren't totally, churched the way we would say it, right? So what for you drew you to church, now at this point in your life? Because people who are listening, if they don't know you, I mean, you're from a priest perspective, you're a gift. You come in, don't know anybody, walk in, just plug in, start helping, serving, there for whatever, it's wonderful. So I'm just curious, what have you done that before in church life, or is that just now?
So, yeah. So, then back to the non-denominational church. I finally got to a point where my husband, who hasn't been churched at all, and my kids haven't been churched, but it's something always in my heart. I wanted Sundays at church. I always wanted that. I loved it when I was being taken to church, even if it was by the neighbors. I love church. I love being in church. I love the presence. I even love being in a Catholic church. I love the beautiful ritual traditions of it. It's just aesthetically so beautiful. And
You think it's the reverence, or what do you think it is about it that attracted you?
Yeah. I mean, it's the reverence. It's almost artful to me. It's dark a little bit, deep, beautiful. I don't know. I love it, right? I love the practice of church. Always wanted, and I got my husband and the kids to come with me to a non-denominational. Now, we were there for a year, and I was trying to plug in, but then we got into a political year.
Oh, yeah, that's the worst.
So it got really political at the altar. And then we learned things about the church that did not line up with our values and our beliefs, right? So then that destroyed church for my husband and kids. I probably don't know that I'll get them back, but I pray on it. But something that's always been in my heart, like a little hole in my heart. And oddly enough, it's weird because I don't need it to know God. I just think I like church. Yeah. But my thing with God is almost different, right?
Right. That's what I was getting at. Yeah. Right? Because they're very apparently sort of, not unrelated, but different relationships. Yeah. And so it's interesting that you would
I guess
feel that draw.
They threaded together a little bit, especially at St. E's, because it was almost like, Catholic light. I got a little bit of that I enjoyed, but then it reflects my values. I emailed the church to drill them on, questions in my values of how do you all stand on this?
Oh,
and
I remember that. You did. Yeah, you emailed.
So I interviewed the church because I was hell bent on making certain that I wasn't going to get disappointed again. But then even then, it took me, I think, 2 years later before I showed up. And I mean, it was my family, a couple years ago, went through a severely, extraordinarily traumatic event. And I, was living that out, the grief, the trauma, and I wasn't recovering at all. And finally, I live in a subdivision where the church is in my subdivision.
Yeah, it's weird that
and
way.
I knew
We're in your neighborhood,
yeah,
for real.
I knew when I moved in, I'm like, well, shoot, that's God talking to me right there. Like, if I cannot get your ass in church, I'm going to make
I wish everyone else in this neighborhood thought that way.
as easy for you as I can, Chemain, and I still wasn't showing up. But grief, the deepest imaginable grief that I could possibly have ever imagined, other than the actual loss of a child, I wasn't recovering, and those beautiful red doors were just like, you just need to walk in. You just need to walk in and come just hear other people pray, hear other people sing, and have that beautiful quietness that's in church.
Yeah.
And
yeah. I'm glad you shared that, and I'm glad you said it too, because I was thinking about it earlier. Like, I wonder if it's the, and I'm glad you walked through those doors. I'm wondering if it's that. It's the walking on this journey with other people, right? Walking through it together is sort of the power of what's there.
I think for most, yeah, but
you're non-verbally shaking your head.
I'm pretty deeply introverted, which is why I like 8 a.m.
Yeah, but we've got like a deep family at that service.
Yeah,
it's different than, not to knock my wonderful 10:30 people that listen to
this. We
this.
love you, 10:30.
Yeah, it's not to knock that, but it's different.
Yeah,
the 8 o'clock is so small. It's like, it really is like a family.
Well, it's both at the same time. We're very connected to one another, family-like, right? But at the same time, it gives me this very private opportunity to worship. And that is what I appreciate, is that I just get to sit so peacefully, so quietly. I get to stare up at that beautiful, I don't even know what it is, brushed nickel cross, whatever. It's just really pretty. I can just pray quietly. We don't engage with one another until it's time for peace and then hospitality. Otherwise, we all just sort of leave each other alone. And in this time of deep, deep grief, I just needed to have silence in this place to hopefully hear God better.
Yeah.
And be led out of this extraordinarily dark place.
Well, I'm glad you found that space.
Yeah, me too.
There, yeah. This is sort of from what you just said, which is very emotional and meaningful, or this is like an aside that doesn't really matter, but nonetheless, it's sort of a priest dork kind of thing to sit and worry about this stuff. But I think a lot about what you just said in terms of, and people who, if you're not Episcopalian and you're listening, right, in most Episcopal churches, you have your Rite 1 and your Rite 2 service. And your Rite 1 is older English. It's a little bit more focused on penitence, right? It's repentant, whereas the 10:30 is more celebratory, you're redeemed. 8 o'clock normally has no music. 10:30 has, choir and hymns and everything. And I don't know. I don't know. I often think about that because dependent upon which one you go to, you're never getting the other experience, right? So 8 o'clock, you get that alone, solitude, contemplative, like, centering thing, which I love. And it's weird because, like, so Bo and I, Deacon Bo, like, we get both, right? We go to both of those services every Sunday, so you get both of them. And I always just really, I don't know, I really just would love for people to experience both of them.
I feel like
now in Lent, we do write one at the 10:30 service, but there's still choir and music. And no offense and no knock to my choir and my music folks at St. A's. You guys are incredible and put in so much work. But I just wonder, what that experience would be like spiritually for people.
Yeah. I think
on both sides.
I think the right people are in the right places. I think that the later crowd, I think they're very social. I think that they love that light celebratory nature of that service, and so they're in the right place. And I think that those of us that are at 8 a.m., we just like that quiet, that serene service. I think that all the right people are in the right places.
Well, good. I won't worry about it anymore. Thanks, Chemain. Appreciate it.
But at 10:30, if you do want a quiet experience and be in your thoughts, then join us at 8 a.m.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, so we've been going down rabbit trails and talking about different things, but so when you think about your life, the ups and downs, mountains, valleys of spiritual life, what else stands out to you? You have other times you would name? Do you have, as I say, like different touchstone moments where you've experienced God in some sort of clear or intense way you would want to name?
I can, but it's going to get deep again.
That's good. That's all right. Well, I'm here for the ride.
So I have a couple.
Okay.
So very early in life, at 21, and then later in life, I had the, honor is almost feels weird to say it that way, but it's the best way I can think to describe it. I've had the honor of experiencing the last weeks of two very important people in my life pass, both to cancer, both with absolute awareness that their days were numbered at this stage.
They were conscious and they knew.
And both weren't in pain. Both were fully aware. And I was 21 when my best friend's dad passed from cancer, and then my aunt, who I just absolutely adore. Mexican family, so your aunts and your uncles are like your parents, and your cousins are like your siblings. So, other mom in this case, and I'm very, very like her in spirit. Both were very, like I said, aware that it was all done. And in both cases, you watched this experience of all the love that they've ever put out into the world in their lifetime, all of it come back to them in this
in the
final
end there
time. Just all the love in this what is otherwise a very tragic time, because both were kind of young to be passed.
How did you witness that? Like in people?
People in actions, just people pouring the love back. And in both were, it was awesome because, it's not awesome, they died. But, one was successful, had the house, had the car, the Mercedes in the garage. One was, worked her fingers to the bone, raising kids, raising grandkids, as a single mom, a single grandma. With hardly a penny to her name, and in a rented house. She never owned one before, with her little minivan that was all beat up, but it was still running, that she piled all the grandkids in. Like two very different life experiences, but in both cases neither of them gave a single thought as to the house they were in, or the car that was in the garage, or the bank balance, the amount of money that was in the bank. Neither of them gave a single thought to that. In both cases, they were both peaceful. They were both faithful people. But, they both just were peaceful. And they both just, were just savoring this time. And they both were receiving so much love. And my aunt was humorous till the last moment. She was ridiculously humorous till the last moment. And still yelling at me and my cousin because we were sobbing so uncontrollably. And she was just just stop, right? It was just so amazing, so young in life. And then later in life with somebody who I love so much, to just have this very peaceful relationship with passing, to watch them do so with so much dignity and so much love and so much peace, and not sitting and kicking and screaming, fighting for more time, which they rightfully could have, but they didn't. And that experience was just godly to me. It was just holy to me.
I mean, you're thank you for sharing that, but you're preaching to the choir in a sense, like talking to a priest about that kind of moment, because it's something my colleagues and I and friends and brothers in ministry talk about often, how it's so odd and kind of ironic that our most holy moments in ministry are in death, and, obviously I haven't sat with everyone as they were passing, but your story, it has blown my mind. 16, so I'm a priest for 16 years this summer. That's a decent chunk of time to be walking with people in different communities, and people die all the time, right? So I've walked with more people. I don't mean this in a negative way. This sounds kind of bad, but I've walked with more people and families and seen more people die than I can remember their names or their faces.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that disrespectfully.
Well, a doctor doesn't remember the names of the children that he helps to birth, so
right,
it's the same.
Right. And yet, again, those moments and the process that goes on there has been, every single time has been like you described. Different, obviously, different personalities or whatever, but it has never been anything but holy.
Yes. Yes.
And that's a weird thing. That's a weird place.
Yeah, because until you're in it, right, you just, you fear it. You have so much fear for your own death, let alone somebody you love so much, right? And then you get there, and it's beautiful. I hate to say that.
Yeah.
But there's beauty in it.
Yeah.
There's beauty in the love and the pain and the savoring of those moments, and it's just so holy, just absolutely holy. God just covers you up, and it's hard and horrible and awful and painful, but it was, I don't know the best word for it.
No, I get you. And I wonder if, and this isn't to take anything away from those experiences or as if it's not God that's present there, but I wonder if part of what goes on in those moments is we're all, and someone could resist this, but in some ways, we're all forced to be real, So people are being authentic and genuine, and all the masks and the, onion layers and whatever, all the stuff we build up our facade. Yeah. Those go away in those moments for the most part.
Well, because you're not still trying to make any impressions or anything like that. So you get it. It's just one of the most rawest moments that
Yeah. You got to be real.
vulnerable.
Say what you need to say.
Yes.
Express what you need to express, right?
and let go.
Uh-huh.
Let go.
Mm-hmm.
It's I don't know. Those were deeply impactful in my life. That I entirely tie God and that God-like experience into.
Mm-hmm.
So that and another very affirming moment, and again, I had a lot. I'm lucky. But kind of back to the grief, the very days after the event, which I'm always happy to share face to face with anybody, but not necessarily in this format. But having my husband and I being in a hotel room next to a hospital, and just days after our event, no, like 48 hours, and like being in the shower, derailed just 1,000 miles away from the tracks, and just in the shower just sobbing and just begging for relief from this moment, begging for clear communication, begging for comfort, begging for knowing what to do next to help my family. And I'm going to pause and backtrack. So there's a word, and it's so cliche, but I can't help it. I love it because it just has repeated itself throughout my entire life. The word journey. The word.
Don't apologize for that. I say that like 20 times every single sermon.
But like it's so like overly used now. But it's a word and theme in my life. I mean, heck, even loosely translated, my name actually means that, the path, the way, the journey. It just repeated itself throughout my life, and it's always been a word that sustains me through moments of total elation, and moments of hardship, right? Because just the journey, not the destination.
Because this isn't it.
Yeah.
Right? We keep going.
Yes, the journey. What are you meant to learn from this? What am I, God, saying? What I'm teaching you in this? What are you getting from it? You know, just the journey. So anyways, in the shower, just doubled over in grief and not knowing what to do. Just unlike anything I could describe. And after having this time in the shower of begging God to just freaking step in already, just do something. I just really need you to just take care of this right now and make it go away. Just do it. I know you can have the power to do it. Just do it. I'm freaking pissed at you. Just make this stop.
Yeah.
And coming out of the shower, and the glass of the mirror's all fogged up, and on top of this, just in the most beautiful writing, the word journey in the mirror. And so, I don't think in that moment God sat in the shower with me and wrote journey on the mirror. I mean, miracles happen.
Yeah.
But, you know...
but the lineup of those events, like, come on.
You know, you write in a foggy mirror.
Yeah.
And then the mirror dries up, and and then when it fogs again, more often than not, whatever smiley face, heart, whatever you wrote is going to show up again.
Yeah.
And so if I had to guess, I don't know, I'm from hospitality world, probably had softball teams, volleyball teams, whatever.
Yeah.
Girls in these piled up in these hotels.
But it could have been any word.
Could have been anything.
It could have been anything.
Wrote this word on probably because it inspired him or her in some way. coach told them journey. It's the journey. It's the journey, okay? Playoffs are the destination, but journey.
Yeah.
And wrote that in, and it just happened to be that Chemain Kellogg.
But still.
Days later,
Journey
whatever.
Kellogg, yeah.
Journey, the word journey shows up on the mirror in the bathroom, and I just looked up and just dropped. Yeah. And sobbed. And said, okay, God, okay, I get it. I know in this case this is going to be an awful journey, but it is the journey. And I know that I just, day by day, step by step, like I hear you, I see you, holy shit, thank you for doing that, for everything you had to line up to make that happen. Like, okay. Yeah. Okay. I need to stop asking you to solve this right now, and I need to just hear you breathe, take this day to day, do what I can in it, and then the next day, and then the next day, and the next day.
Yeah, because to that journey idea too, I don't know if I'm stretching here, but like, it demands trust.
Yes.
Like you trust, like, okay, this is an experience. This is a way I'm walking on, right? And it takes time, and it takes,
And that's the thing of it, right? Like, that relationship. You can be taught to believe. You can read your scriptures, all sorts of scripture on trust, right?
Right, trust, faith, all that. Faith. I know, and I know it's a soapbox for me, and I say it all the time, but like, yeah, to me, faith is struggle. Real faith is not belief. It's not being spoon-fed something and being told what to believe and you just believe it. That's not faith. And I love the image of, Jacob wrestling in the desert. It says an angel, but he's named, which would imply that it's God. And he's named Israel. And we never put it together, but Israel means literally wrestles with God. Do we think that name literally just means that, this dude wrestled with this guy in the desert, and so he's called Wrestles with God, and that's all there is to it? No. That's the point. The chosen people of God were named Wrestles with God, because that's a real relationship. The back and forth, the give and take, the struggle.
And the whole, ultimately, I feel, which is why I really love the Bible, even though, no offense, but I don't take it literally. But I love it, I read it every year, is that the journey, the faith, the wrestling, the whole Bible is just the big human experience.
Oh, it's a massive journey. It's a huge, long arc.
That painful, awful, hopeful, loving, grief-stricken human experience. And ultimately, it's a big wrestling match with God. That at the end of the day, in my life anyways, I'm blessed to say, he's always victorious and always there and always shows up, or doesn't even show up, just always is there. And like I said, I mean, I've played out some pretty unholy things in my life that I'm not proud of, and it's he, she, it, whatever, is just always there, guiding me, pulling me through, celebrating with me sometimes, like just all of it.
Suffering with you
Suffering with me. Slapping me upside the head sometimes, you idiot. I couldn't have made it more clear that time, but you still freaking went off track. But here I am to reroute you, So it's just, it's that. And I don't like pain, I don't like grief at all whatsoever, but I accept it. I accept it, and I have the trust, back to the trust, bring it full circle. It's just the trust in the journey, in the relationship. And I think a lot of people go to church every week probably and don't actually have that, and that's painful. Because I would gift what I feel like I've been blessed with in my life. I would gift this to every single person on the planet so that they could at least just, I don't know, feel the support and the love and the comfort even on the most darkest days.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That, I mean, it hit me when you said, like, do most people walk around with that level of trust in the journey or in that relationship with this higher power? And it's an interesting question. I don't know, it almost feels, in a way, I'm just talking off the top of my head here, but like entering into that relationship and trusting it, with that comes a lot of challenge and a lot of, dark nights of the soul and a lot of that stuff, right? And that's not totally pleasant,
No.
right? But you have this thing that you trust in. On the other hand, if you don't enter into that relationship and you don't trust and it's just surface level, well then, yeah, you can sort of, I mean, again, I'm just sort of talking out loud, but like, does that jive? Like, is it all just surface level then for folks like that? I mean, obviously we all experience pain and loss and tragedy and whatever, but maybe they've never gone into that deeper place, and it's a weird, strange, ironic thing, because it's like if you don't have that trust and you don't go into those deeper places, then you don't have all that beauty and all that depth,
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I just think of my lifetime. It's been a weird, crazy ride, man. I've had a weird life. And I just think of things that have hurt so bad. And I know how I've come through, each and every time. And I just can't imagine for folks that go through their experiences and they don't have the trust and they don't have the relationship. And I don't, like, that's amazing to me. I don't even know how you do that.
Yeah, or I mean, and we're in those terms we're talking about individually, personally, like that relationship with a higher power or God, but that's even. But what about even folks that don't have any relationship with a faith community at all? I'm the last person that's going to tell you church is perfect and there aren't problems and blah blah blah, but walking with that community of people is super powerful.
If you don't have that, man, you are a greater warrior than I could ever imagine to be. Because I can't imagine, again, like I said, I don't go to heaven or go to church to try and get to heaven. That's the last thing on my mind. I go to church just at this time. I go to church just to survive Earth, man. Yeah. And
that's great. I love that. That helps me as a priest. I'm glad.
And otherwise, I don't know. Again, you got to be like super ninja warrior if you're able to get through really tough times. And without that, because I don't have that kind of strength. I don't have that, and I need to fall into God, man. I just wouldn't have gotten through a fraction of what I've got through, even some self-inflicted stuff at times, had I not been able to lean into and trust that God's right there and is going to pull me through it and give me a big fat lesson, right? And be with me and be like, shit, yeah, you did screw up, girl, but okay, I'm right here. It's all right. We're going to be all right, like just that, like, I don't know.
Well, I'll say this. I mean, and I'm sure listeners get annoyed with this, but like, so I don't think I said this in the beginning, but your story of having that connection is like my story. And it took me a long, long time to realize, like, that's not everyone's story. And so that's a blessing and a gift just to have that foundation, of awareness and trust in this. Again, yeah, we say God, we say higher power, we say sort. We don't even know what that means,
Correct. How do you even assign a gender to it? Because it's got to be so much greater than that. Right. But I do find comfort in saying he, because it just.
Oh yeah, sure, and that's and that doesn't bother me. But even just like this idea of it's this, whatever we're talking about when we say God is this thing that, we say created everything, is the source of all things, and yet also cares enough about little old me or you that all the things we just described, we feel like it abides with us or walks with us or suffers with us, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling.
There's a song,
and yet that's the experience.
There's a song that I came out my senior year or just after I graduated, I can't remember. Arrested Development, Tennessee. Ironically, Tennessee. That was the first.
Wait, hold on. When did you have that song?
It's either my senior year or like right after I graduated.
Yeah, that song was rocking when I was in 5th grade.
Super. I priested an apple. Forgive me, guys.
Sorry, that's my fault. That's all on me. That's all on me.
I'll confess
That's all on me. It's my fault. Okay.
But, okay, so then the lyric. That was, at that age, that was the first time I heard anything express the way I felt God. Where it says, what is it? God, it's obvious we have a relationship. We talk to each other every night and day.
Oh, yeah.
And I know you're not supposed to be just my steering wheel, but my spare tire or something like that.
And I just lost my tire. Yeah.
It's just this super casual, loving, supportive, trusting, back to casual relationship. It was like they express I'm not, black and from the South, and I cannot in any level relate to really the intent of that song.
Yeah.
But the lyric and this expression, this dialogue between the lyricist and God was so comfortable and safe and casual. And it's like, wow, that's how I feel.
Yeah.
That was my first time discovering, like what you're saying.
That other people feel this.
That somebody else felt like that too.
Yeah.
I struggle with the notion of even fearing God.
Yeah.
I don't know how to fear God.
Sure. Yeah, I always have to substitute the word awe. Awe-inspired, yeah. But yeah, that's a really fascinating point too with those lyrics that, another side of it is like it's this beautiful connection, and yet where does the connection lead him back to? It leads him back to the place where his ancestors were suffered, right?
From the trees they hung from.
Yeah. That's a whole other conversation. But that's I don't know. That clicks for some reason, right? Like God calling us into the places that stretch us and grow us and are challenging and, right?
Calls you to authenticity. Calls you into realness.
To confront the things that bind us.
Yeah.
Right? That weigh us down.
Forces you to come to the pain. But promises to pull you through. Promises there's going to be change in you, yourself, after strength, after.
Yeah. It's good stuff. We've gone all over the place. What I want to make sure, because I'm looking at our time here, are there, from Chemain's life, are there any other vignettes, little stories, moments, experiences that you would want to share or relay to people?
I think I don't want to be preachy, like, hey, just be silent and pay attention and you'll hear them. Like, that's not what I would want to come out of this. I don't know. I just, my mind, I think sometimes feels like sad when I see people struggle and they don't have that source. How do you help that? I try to help it, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
you don't have to call it God. You don't have to call it him or her.
Right, semantics don't matter.
Yeah, like, and you can find it in your loudest moments. It doesn't even have to be silent.
Mm-hmm.
You can find that source in your loudest moments, your most unholy of moments, your most joyous of moments. Like, if I could, like, gift the world what I feel every day, I would do that in a heartbeat. And
it would be a gift.
I don't know. I don't know what anybody's going to get out of this conversation. Hopefully a little bit of something, but it's just, it's not difficult. It's not hard. It's, go on a trail, do a hike, and don't bring music with you, and just like listen and look and feel, and that's God to me. The breeze and the sounds and the smells and just this like awareness of I'm surrounded by these things that know nothing about me. Yeah.
And we can think all that stuff away and explain it all away, or you can feel it and experience it.
Yeah, I don't know. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Sorry, I had no good point to finish with.
No, you're great. This is great. Don't do that.
Should you ever have to talk about grief and things like that, I'm a good source to come to.
Oh, and Chemain has done spiritual direction, which everyone's always like, what does that mean? So, yeah, you could talk about that with folks, too. You just reminded me, though, exactly what you just said. It's that line I love from the Gospel of Thomas, which is not in the canon, obviously. But he says, turn a stone and I am there. Split a piece of wood and I am there.
Yes.
God's there if you pay attention,
Yes. Or Indian mythology. I don't even like to use the word mythology, but just the whole God is in me, God is in the tree, I am the tree, I am God. We are the water. Just that whole cyclical. It's all of it. It's not. You don't even have to look up to address God. Just look straight forward and address God, and it's in everything.
And that's people. Not to belabor this, I know we're wrapping up, but that people oftentimes try to act as if that, like what you just expressed, is somehow not Christian theology, and it totally is. It's there all the time, right? Read the Psalms, and their reflections on, nature around them. Look at Jesus going to the desert and praying for 40 days, right? What was he doing, right? You think he was connecting to creation around him? I think so.
Yeah.
I don't think he was talking, constantly for 40 days, right?
Yeah.
That's all over.
He was meditating
it's all right there.
On that environment, that supernatural.
Or look at the Eucharist. What we do every Sunday that we have memorialized and made holy.
Yeah.
What did he do with his disciples? He shared a meal.
Yeah.
And that's holy.
Yeah.
If you'll only behold it, right? The kingdom of heaven is near, meaning right here, if you'll only behold it.
Yes.
All right, friend. Anything else you want to say? Any other story you want to share?
No, we're good.
Okay. Well, listen, this is a joy, pleasure. I know I repeat myself all the time, but it's just, man, I love hearing everyone's stories and perspectives and journeys to you. And it is just that. And so thank you for being willing to share and your vulnerability and, telling your story. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. We'll catch up soon. Thanks.